Today's lesson 5.2, will be on rates. If you need reference, you can refer to 4.1 on rates in the textbook. Our learning goal today is I can understand the difference between rates, ratios, and unit rates and solve them. Let's start with some vocabulary. A ratio. A ratio is a comparison between two quantities with the same unit. A ratio can be written in three different ways. Let's look at an example where we write a ratio. These are crayons here. I have 3 blue crayons. And I also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 orange crayons. Let's write these as a ratio. My first ratio is going to be 3, B for short, 2, 7, O for orange. Kind of looks like the letter 0 there, but that's an O for orange. You know, why don't I just write orange like that? Another way to write this is 3B colon 7 orange. And then the final way to write a ratio is like this: 3 over 7. And there we go. 3 different ways to write a ratio. Later on, the most common way we write ratios will be as a fraction. Let's continue. Number 2. We have 3 apples to 4 oranges. So, can you think of 3 ways we can write these ratios? We have 3 apples to 7 oranges is one way. Maybe you said that. You have 3 apples to 7 oranges. That's one way. And then finally, we have 3 apples to 7 oranges. These are our 3 ways we can write ratios. Let's continue with our lesson. A rate. A rate is the comparison of two quantities that have different units. So sometimes when I think about rates, I think of something like a heart rate. How much does your heart beat per minute? Okay, so we're looking at rates right now, and it says a comparison of two quantities that have different units. So whenever we were talking about crayons here, they were in the same category. When we were talking about apples to oranges, they were in the same category, fruits. So now we're looking at rates. So they're in different categories now. Kilometers and hours. So we write a rate just like we write a ratio, which will be 60 kilos for 3 hours. And that's it. It's a comparison of two quantities that have different units. Let's continue with our lesson that nobody will watch. We have 40 words in 2 minutes. So I'm going to write this as 40 words in 2 minutes. So then I have 40 over 2, which is it. And we end up with just 40 over 2. Let's continue. We have 200 sit-ups in 2 minutes. So we'll write this as a ratio. As where we have 200 sit-ups over 2 minutes. And here's our rate. 200 sit-ups in 2 minutes. One last vocabulary we're going to look at today is something called a unit rate. A unit rate has a denominator of 1. It's per 1. So let's look back at our previous example where we had the 60 kilometers in 3 hours. And we want to know how long it would take us to travel per 1 hour. So we're finding a unit rate where our is over 1 for 1 hour. So we know in 3 hours it's 60. What is it for 1 hour? So there's a really easy way to figure out how much it is per hour, and that's simply just to divide. Now we know based off our divisibility rules that we can divide both of these by 3. 60 divided by 3 is 20, and 3 divided by 3 is 1. So therefore, we can drive 20 kilometers in 1 hour. And it may help to remember that uni means 1. Let's continue. So we have 40 words in 2 minutes. How long would it take per 1 minute? We're assuming we're typing here. Okay, so 40 words in 2 minutes. I'm going to write this as 20 words. You can divide both of these by 2 because they're both even or end in a 0 in 1 minute. So 20 words in 1 minute. So I can type 20 words in 1 minute. Remember, uni means 1. We have maybe a unibrow. We can have a unicycle. Or maybe you might have a unicorn. You like my picture of a unicorn there? "200 sit-ups in 2 minutes." We want to figure out what it is per 1. Do you remember what divisibility rule we can apply to this this rate here? Divide both of these by 2 because they both end in a 0 or a 2. So now we get 100 over 1. Wow, that's pretty good. You can do 100 sit-ups in a minute. Good for you. Let's review our learning goal. Today, you understood the difference between rates, ratios, and unit rates, and you solved them. Congratulations!